Welcome back, liches, to the Sanctum.
We've been recently crushing through the new D&D starter set, the Dragons of Stormwreck Isle. We've come into a little issue that we've noticed. The combat encounters a little boring.
Yeah, we need something else other than the goblins and kobolds and skellies, oh my.
Oh my!
So we've plucked out some creatures that are 1/8 level to CR rating 3 from various source books. We are going to build encounters. We encourage you to steal these encounters and use them on your own if you like. You don't have to change anything about them. We want to inspire creativity with these. Instead of going through descriptions and lore for all of these creatures, we want to just kind of throw them into the mix of how they would feel in a battle, where they would fight, and how they would fight.
So without further ado, let's get to these monsters and see what trickery the liches have cooked up for YouTube viewers today. All right, the very first monster that sort of grabbed our attention is from the monster manual. You know, it's fall time, and we thought what better thing to drop into one of your combat scenarios than a Scarecrow. Scarecrows are CR1 monsters, and we think that they are really fun to use because they have a lot of damage resistances. They are vulnerable to fire, so as you're describing that these things are filled with hay, you're hoping that someone gets the hint with, maybe I should try to fire a firebolt at this thing.
It looks really dry. It looks really dry.
They also have this fear aura, and when they attack you, they can cause you to be paralyzed by fear, which is a really cool mechanic without having one of your player characters turn to stone.
Yeah, I hate that.
So you're gonna get to be able to paralyze someone and then they can roll to save each turn. Here's the pitch for the encounters with Scarecrows. We call this the boy who cried wolf scenario, right? As you're playing through your one-shot or your adventure, every time you're in a field or there's some vegetation growing, you're by a farmhouse, you drop a Scarecrow in there. The first one that they encounter, they're like, obviously this thing's gonna pop to life. Right? It doesn't. The second one you encounter, this one's gonna be real. This is the one that's gonna turn to life and murder us all. It doesn't. You keep doing this over and over again until you get to like maybe your 4th or 5th time and their defenses are lowered. And they're just not expecting it anymore. They're like, no, these are just normal scarecrows.
Yeah. Let them be comfortable.
That's when you spring it on them. The scarecrow springs to life because until this thing decides to react, you cannot distinguish it apart from an inanimate, just normal scarecrow. So that's it. Use your scarecrows and scare your players with them. We think they're pretty interesting. What do you think? Anything to add to that?
You could do mostly exploration.
Yep.
Right? Or maybe, you know, there were tales of animals being harassed and killed on farmers' lands and they couldn't really figure it out. You're going from farm to farm and doing this investigation thing, and you're pretty much trying to find that scarecrow.
Yep.
Right? But at every turn, the players see the fake ones, and they start to think, oh, it's not the scarecrow, it's got to be something else. Give them some red herring clues to go toward another direction. Maybe they think it's wolves, maybe they think it's goblins or whatever, and then you're like, zing. The next encounter we're going to do is we are going to have kind of a fae-themed encounter. Out in the middle of the woods, maybe at a lake, there is a Quickling. This little Quickling is a tiny, evil fae creature. But this is the great thing about fae creatures is they're never really murdery. They love to just freaking mess with you. I think at this lake is this Quickling's home. I think it'd be hilarious to have this Quickling skitter across the water, right? Like he's so tiny, like why couldn't he? It doesn't say they can run on water, but its speed is like 120, so imagine a dashing Quickling at 240, zipping around. This thing is hard to hit. It's like disadvantage on attacks against it unless its speed is 0. Its AC is 16. It's pretty high for low level. This is a CR rating 1 creature, right?
Yep.
Now this guy is not there to kill the whole party. This is gonna be more of a social combat encounter where you're gonna interact with him. Maybe he has some kind of key that you need to proceed to the next area of where you're going. He's holding this key on a stone in the middle of this lake. And surrounding the lake are a bunch of giant snails. I think the contrast here is pretty hilarious. Players are trying to swim into the middle of the lake, and the snails are slowly slugging after them. The Quickling has little pouches of salt that he's going into your pockets and taking gold and trading them with pouches of salt. He's giving the player the means to destroy the snails, but maybe he'll take them back just when they get close, just to mess with them, you know?
So you have to figure out how to reason with it. That's the social aspect of it, right? So, but if you can sort of figure out how to appease this creature and not get super agitated as it's sort of stealing off your crap and replacing it with bags of salt, and then giggling and laughing at you as you keep missing this thing, I think that's really interesting.
He wants you to kill the snails. Kill the snails! Kill the snails! And if you don't kill the snails, if you're not using the salt to kill the snails, he starts getting pissed off.
Yep, they're vermin.
Yeah.
Maybe they eat all of his little food that he's cultivating around the lake.
These giant snails are susceptible. They have an ability, well, it's not really, it's kind of like a weakness built into their monster, where they take necrotic damage from a pound of salt thrown on them, right? So that's kind of where we're playing this bags of salt in here. That would be kind of funny. Like, kill it, kill the snails.
Yeah. All right, let's dial back the CR rating to 1/2. So we got 1/2 CR rating rust monsters to throw at your party, the adventurers. They are a classic D&D monster that has been around for decades, and the reason that they are cool and semi-annoying is not because of the damage that they do, it's because of their appetite for destroying metal things and eating metal swords and armor. If your players have never encountered these sort of weird, overgrown cockroach
that have a serious iron deficiency in their diet,
they're pretty intense. You know, I think they would really freak out your players. The encounter that we've cooked up for this is to show you monster encounters can be all sorts of things. And what we're going to do with this one is we're going to create an actual trap. So traps don't always just have to be something that leads to, oh, you failed something, you take X amount of damage.
You're shot with a dart in your spleen.
It doesn't have to be that. We want to show you that traps can be a little bit more. They can be interesting. So a local town has tasked you with finding and figuring out what happened to their local wizard. This wizard has a tower that looks over the town on like a hillside. When you get to the door, you see a sign that has strange runes or a strange alphabet on there. Ideally, one of your players will be able to decipher this strange language, and they find out that it says, all hands on deck. Your players start talking, they're gonna have a few ideas of what this means, and they determine that, hey, we all have to put our hands on the door, because there's no knob, there's no way of entering. You figure, yeah, wizards are kind of weird. It's gonna be like, you know, speak, friend, and enter kind of deal. What is really happening is there is a pressure plate trap door that's going to swing open. Once enough weight is on it, it swings open and the party is going to fall down like a funhouse chute. So it catches them, sort of Goonies style. Yep.
Spiral.
It's not going to do any damage, but it is going to drop them into a darkened room. In the shadows, there's skittering movement and grotesque chittering, sort of. Little weird noises like that. And as they light up their torch, they see these long antennae, and these cockroach creatures start moving towards them.
They see just tons of broken weapons on the ground that are rusted out and rotted. They might think just because it's been down here for such a long time, but then they start to realize once they're getting hit, they see their weapons degrade, and they get the picture.
Yeah, you give them those context clues. Essentially, you've created a trap that leads towards a monster encounter with 2 rust monsters. We think 2 for like a level 1 party, or level 2 is actually enough because they're going to be eating and destroying your weapons and things like that.
Yeah, you don't want too many weapons to break, so not everyone is using their fists to try to destroy these guys. I think this is kind of fun at low level to kind of destroy those early beginner equipment. They don't care so much about some of the regular short swords they have, right?
But it also teaches them that, hey, these things can break. Maybe we should bring more weapons. They shouldn't just have what they carry on them. Maybe have an extra.
Yeah, options.
And then after you kill the rust monsters, there's a locked door down there that your players can either break down or have the rogue pick the lock. And then you proceed to move into the wizard's tower proper from the dungeon.
Do it, steal it, use it. Our next encounter takes place in an open bog. It's very misty. There's patches of water, there's areas to walk. You're not sure what is good to walk on and what's not, but it seems like there's paths through here. Along this open, mucky swamp, it might be twilight, right? We might have some moonlight, maybe it's a dim lit area. The party encounters some rundown shacks, some rundown buildings. They're made out of various twigs. They seem like huts, maybe with lily pad roofs. They start to think that it's abandoned, but are immediately attacked by bullywugs. Bullywugs are a great creature to use. They're CR 1/4. This gives you something to use that is goblin-esque, bandit-esque. They're smart enough to form a camp. Maybe they have some kind of leader, but they use tools. They wear armor. They can do different things like this. This is probably good for level 3, where I would like to add equipment to some of my bullywug. Give them nets. Some of them go fishing. Give them spears with hooks. You kind of shock your players when they see minions using equipment. They get a net thrown on them and they're just restrained and they have to break free of it. Maybe there's some muck traps that the bullywugs have set for trespassers where they just walk across it and get stuck. The whole idea is that the bullywugs want people to wander into their camp and they ambush them. Use their water breathing. Have them jump up on top of the huts and throw spears down at your party. Give your players something else to think about. They're underwater. You can't see them, they're hidden. They swim across through the mucky water and they appear on the other side. Use all of that stuff to your advantage to challenge a more experienced group.
Absolutely. I think this is a great encounter because one, it's all the environmental hazards. This is going to be difficult terrain up the wazoo. You have encountered them on their home turf.
Yep.
And on top of that, you've given them gear. Some of them might have better armor because they've killed things. They've acquired better loot and equipment. So like you said, they might have javelins that have ropes on them because they go like sort of spear fishing. So they can give you that old scorpion, whoosh, get over here. Except it's in bullywug, so it's like, get over here, baby. And you, like you said, you could have one of them be a leader, give it more HP, give it all the best equipment. This thing might have a great sword. Or it's
a shield or something.
Yeah, it's got a lot. So this whole encounter too is about be smart and give those low level encounters, give them equipment.
Yeah.
Freak out your players. Be like, holy shit, they think and they got stuff. We're screwed. I'm thinking it's like guerrilla warfare tactics with these things.
Yeah.
Man. You're gonna go through there and just be like, man, I wish we never went. I wish we never stepped foot in that godforsaken bog.
We should have waited till morning to go.
Have you ever wanted to use some of those monsters in the old monster manual that are either neutral or they're good or they're lawful good? Stuff where you're like, oh, that'd be a cool thing to fight, but they're not evil. They're not bad. They're not baddies. We can't just kill them. You can always come up with a reason if you got enough going on in the old Lichy noodle upstairs. So once again, we're dipping our toes into the Feywild. Let's dive into this encounter that we've created. The party is resting down for the night. You're in a forest. Everyone has gone to sleep. You've set a watch. There's 1 or 2 members of the adventuring party that are awake. They are guards. Unfortunately for the party, they have decided to go down for the night and rest right in the path of these elven creatures escorting their unicorn princess back to her magical glade. At the front of this escort are her primary guards. There's 2 dryads and a handful of sprites. The dryads are CR1 and the sprites are CR 1/4. So what ends up happening is that you describe that there is maybe like some rustling in the leaves beyond. It almost seems like a wind or a breeze is sort of
rainbow mist
just brushing in. If your players don't decide to look around, if they're not even bothered by this at all, what you're going to do at that point is you're going to roll for stealth. And you're going to use their passive perception. If they don't have dark vision or torches lit, you're going to give them -5 on those perceptions. You're also going to be rolling with advantage because dryads can look like trees and sprites can turn invisible. If they do decide to look around, tell them that they can make a wisdom ability check, and if they are proficient in perception, they can use that. The dryads and the sprites, they're going to be rolling at advantage. Chances are this is going to go bad for the people looking out that are on guard duty. And this should create a surprise round. And what you want to have happen is that The Dryads are going to cast Entangle on the sleeping party members, and those sprites are going to pop from being invisible, and they are going to shoot everybody with their poison short bows, which only do 1 point of damage, but they will, if you fail the saving throw, you become poisoned. You get the poison condition. But after that first round of combat, they stop attacking. They demand to know why you're threatening their unicorn princess.
They accuse you of laying a wait in ambush.
Yes. They see you with your animal leathers on, you're eating cooked meats and berries. You're these heathens that are just feasting off their lands, and they view you as a threat. At this point, you have to reason with these very hostile creatures that do not think the same way that you do. And they do not speak common. They only speak Sylvan and maybe Elvish. So you have to have somebody that hopefully speaks this language, or you're really gonna have a hard time interpreting, like, oh, we didn't mean to do anything. So really all you're doing is you're creating the start of this encounter. That's all you're planning out. If they decide to kill those 2 Dryads and all those sprites, or maybe a couple of them report back to the escort group, you've then made a mortal enemy with a goddamn unicorn princess. Or the other side of that coin is, if you're able to sort of convince them that this was all just a big misunderstanding, then you could have some new allies.
It's a pretty great neutral encounter.
Right. Imagine like the movie Death Wish, but it's a unicorn just murderously hunting you down like the Predator.
Oh, dear God.
In the forest.
She has rainbow vision.
Oh my God, here she comes!
For our second to last encounter, we have kind of a pirate's adventure where the party sets out in search of treasure. Maybe there are some other ragtag groups looking for the same treasure. They start approaching their first island and are suddenly swallowed by a dragon turtle.
Should have bought a bigger dinghy.
Got swallowed whole. But they are surprised to wake up alive. They explore a short distance, try to figure out where they are, if they can find an escape route. And they start hearing strange voices coming down what looks like to be some of the cavities. There might be some like throbbing, gooey, slimy tubes, esophaguses to travel down, right? Maybe this thing has a couple of stomachs. Do they hear screaming?
Help me.
Maybe they hear something in another language, something in Elvish maybe, or in Abyssal. Try to allude to the fact that this could be other lost adventurers that perhaps need to be saved. You're led to a slimy tunnel. Maybe it leads down and you want, maybe the party tries to get down safely. If they do anything agitating to the walls, like try to drive pittons into the side, the monster makes some kind of reaction and have the players, make a strength or dexterity save to stay where they are instead of falling straight down the pit.
The pit is definitely where those noises are coming from.
Yes. If they fall in it, drop them in a random place in this pit. Mm-hmm. If they rappel down safely, put them in a nice safe zone. This pit is no bigger than 60 feet across, maybe a circle, an atrium of slime and flesh. The floor is covered in spotted puddles, pools, small, maybe 5 to 10 foot pools of acid, right? And they're bubbling, bleep, bleep. In the center is just this mass. And the mass kind of expands. It has some weird appendages, arms, and a big, wide, gaping mouth with teeth. It is a Gibbering Mouther. Lovecraftian. Just the creepiest thing they have ever seen. This forces them into a situation where they have little room to maneuver. This creature is a CR rating 2. It's only one creature, and again, parties have a really easy time with single targets, right? But this creature is a little different in how it reacts. At the start of every person's turn, they're going to be making saves to see if they go crazy from the sounds, or if they get stuck. If they get close enough within 20 feet, they get just stuck in the aberrant ground.
The dough-like
aberrant
ground.
dough that surrounds it. So they could get stuck, or they could get sent in a random direction, or they could lose their turn. This really divides up the action economy right away. So for this kind of creature, there's going to be people skipping turns and people trying to get out of muck. There's going to be players that are sent in a random direction, maybe into a pool of acid, take some acid damage. Don't make it too much. It's only stomach acid. Maybe make it a D6. But they're going to try to hack and slash this thing to death before dissolving in this turtle stomach. There's nowhere to go, right? I love this encounter. I feel like dropped into the situation, players just be freaking out.
So it's sort of investigative because you're hearing the voices and you're sort of looking for those, but then it turns on its head and it instantly becomes a horror encounter where you have this Lovecraftian, sort of David Cronenbergian body horror monstrosity. And maybe that this thing, it's almost like a tumor in the stomach of this dragon turtle. Maybe this is what's driving it crazy to eat and swallow up ships whole. Maybe there's more of these sort of monstrosities throughout its stomachs and throughout its brain and heart that are sort of driving this creature mad from within.
And maybe when they defeat this creature, all the slime and ooze and tumors just kind of fall into a mass, and there's a person left who has lost their mind. Maybe they save this person, get farted out.
Yeah, he might know how to get out of here. There might be other people. Now you've got this sort of semi-insane survivor that, maybe he speaks in riddles and he's the key to sort of getting out of here. You don't know. I think this is a fantastic encounter. So your adventurers, your party, they love to go to taverns, right? Most D&D adventures start there. The tavern represents a place to relax. It's a place to gather information, make friends with the locals, and to get drunk. So what if you decided to spoil the sanctity of the tavern? That no place in the realm is safe. So while the party is enjoying a nice chicken and dumpling soup with a side of warm spiced dwarven mushroom wine, they hear some commotion from the kitchen. There's pots and pans that are clattering. You hear the scream of the tavern owner / bartender. And then there is a cacophony of this horrific shrieking that sends every patron within the tavern fleeing for their lives at the sound of this noise. As your party runs into the kitchen towards the danger, all of the dead chickens that have been used to be prepared for food have been transformed into Abyssal Chickens. And now, this is a good time to just sort of reskin something in a way that, you're not actually going to use them the way that they're talked about in the adventure. I want these things to be dead chicken carcasses that sort of come back to life with no feathers. They've been skinned. They're real creepy looking, but they sort of grow like razor beaks, and they've got multiple heads and maybe multiple legs, and they're just these weird, freakish, mutant chicken carcasses.
It's gnarly.
Isn't that what McDonald's uses to make their nuggets?
Yeah.
Abyssal chickens?
I don't care.
2 heads, 45 legs.
I just lost my mind.
They have a wing coming out of the side of their neck.
And while you're in the kitchen, the smell of sulfur and brimstone is sort of lingering in the air. It's something that everyone can perceive. Cowering in the corner is the tavern owner, and he is the main target of these Abyssal Chicken attacks. They're trying to peck and kill him and tear him piece by piece like some trauma movie like Poultrygeist. It's horrific. So now you have a hostage situation where you need to save this patron from these chickens. But the real thing here is, after you kill all these chickens, it sort of turns into an investigation. You notice that the smell of sulfur and brimstone gets stronger. It seems to be coming from the basement, the larder where all the food is kept. You go downstairs, you move some crates and boxes aside, and drawn into the dirt floor of the basement, there is this big demonic, devilish spawning circle. And now the plot thickens. Someone in town wants to kill this tavern owner, and you need to figure out who and why. And the other thing I want to mention too is, as your players are fighting these creatures, you got to constantly be reminding them, be like, all night you were eating chicken and dumpling soup, and this shit was delicious. and you're just watching. This is the food that was being prepared. Maybe make some Constitution saving throws to see if people throw up.
Yeah.
Add a little bit of slickness to the battle area. You want to
Some
go
difficult terrain.
Yeah, you want to go full trauma on this bad boy and just make it as disgusting, as vile as possible. Since you stayed to the end of the video, we have decided to treat you guys with one last little creature that Kamo and I have cooked up. So this is a CR 1/4 creature. While the party is exploring a gnomish laboratory, you encounter some strange guards. They're 7-foot tall, construct/robotic, bird beak, plague doctor looking creatures. They have unnaturally long arms that their knuckles just sort of drag along the floor, scraping as they go by.
One of their arms has a massive container of green liquid, and their fingers are long needle syringes.
While encountering this robotic guard, it can hit you from 10 feet away with its reach ability. On a successful hit, it requires a DC 11 Constitution saving throw, or you're going to take 3d6 poison damage from this bad boy. Pretty freaky, huh?
Yeah.
What if Kamo and I were to tell you that everything we just described is just a giant poisonous snake? CR 1/4 creature in the back of the monster manual that's given a tiny little stat block.
We just slapped a new skin on it. It still gave it its reach, gave it poison damage. It's still a bite, but it's a reach arm attack. I think what we might do here is go even a little bit further than reskinning. What you can do is homebrew. Because this is a construct, we're gonna slap the poison immunity and psychic immunity onto this as well.
Makes
just
sense.
because. And if you wanna go even further, you could have that bite attack, and if they do get poisoned, have some kind of like random magic effect. Maybe it's good, maybe it's bad, maybe they grow pseudopod fingers and they can climb on the walls, or maybe they just start vomiting vile green liquid.
Yeah, every time that claw attack bites into your skin, it's just injecting you with weird green goo that you don't know what it does.
Like this thing is trying to tie you down to a table and experiment on you.
Maybe it's smart enough to have like a self-destruct situation like the Predator. So if this thing gets down to, unfortunately you don't actually kill it, it only gets to like 5 hit points or less, it can actually use its reaction to trigger a self-destruct where it explodes into a 10-foot cloud of destruction and mayhem. It's going to do like 2d6 poison damage in that 10-foot radius. You don't have to go that extra mile. You can literally just take monsters and describe them in weird, freaky ways. And that is a great, great way to get your players to just be like, what the hell is this thing? And you're just using basic, simplistic monster stat blocks to freak out your players. Trust me, this works all the time. I almost never run basic monsters in D&D. I just slap on different skins to everything out there, and everybody has no idea that this is just a troll and that you should kill it with fire. It's my favorite trick to do. I love it. And then you love going the extra mile, like just making them extra freaky and weird.
That's our list of unique monsters. They're not scalies, they're not kobolds. We're done. We fought them there. We killed them all. Boring. Give us something new and tasty. Please steal these encounters that we've created, use them in your games. You don't need to change them at all.
Check out that community tab with all our tasty new polls that we got. Love it. Love you guys interacting with the last one. Spoiler alert, the D&D starter set did not do well. With over 300 votes as of this recording, you guys all think that Pathfinder Beginner's Box is way better value and a way better starter set. So thank you so much for interacting with that poll. Let us know what you think about which is your favorite low-level monster in the new one. We're going to see you guys next time. Next Friday, we got a brand new video for you. Stay lichy, stay cool, stay classy. We'll see you guys later.
Subscribe to join the Legion, Toll the Dead. See you next time, Liches.
Bye-bye.